Over the course of the next video, and with the help of the attached PDF, I am going to give you everything that you need to know to train for a backcountry hunt. Now, it is no secret that I have been deeply frustrated with a bunch of the different mountain hunter offerings that are out there right now. I think a lot of these systems are deeply flawed. I think they overcharge you. Not only do I not believe they are the most effective methodology to train for a backcountry hunt, I believe they are actually producing results that are completely counterproductive to your goals. I think they could actually be doing you harm in regards to how fit you are for the backcountry by developing energy systems that have nothing to do with backcountry hunting. So first of all, let me say that everything we are about to dive into is deeply inspired by the book Training for the Uphill Athlete by House, Johnston, and Journet. I have to say, reading this book changed everything that I understood and knew about endurance training. It questioned all the previous assumptions I had and just completely rocked my world. And I can say that over the last year to year and a half of me implementing the systems derived from this book, my capacity in the backcountry has completely changed. I spent 140 days in the field last year, and I can say that at 47 years old, I am more fit in the backcountry now than I have ever been in my life before. So we are going to do a high-level overview of the concepts presented in that book. I could nerd out, and this could be a 3-hour video, and that's not the point. If you are really that into the deep science of this stuff, go get the book, read the book. It's going to answer all your questions. This is for the guys that do not have the time or the educational background to go that deep. So what I have done is I have broken the book up into 10 core principles. So we're going to walk through each of those principles. I'm going to break them down. I'm going to explain them to you at a high level in a practical way that will help you understand what you need to do to maximize and optimize your fitness for the backcountry. Then we're going to dive into a sample training program, 4-month training program that is going to get you ready for any backcountry hunt. And then through that, I'm going to share some of my own anecdotal evidence about what's worked for me, what hasn't, and some of the observations I've had while implementing these systems over the last year and a half. Principle number 1, endurance is a metabolic problem. It isn't about mental grit. It also isn't about cardiovascular capacity. It's about how your body processes fuel. Training must increase your aerobic engine to process lactate produced by hard efforts. If you can't recover between stocks, you have an aerobic deficiency, not a willpower problem. And I want to go one step further because most people think that endurance is a function of cardiovascular capacity. Like if I can run further, I will have more endurance. And what the studies have shown is that is not the case. Endurance is a function of our body's ability to metabolize fat, most specifically. It can also be impacted by how we metabolize carbohydrates, but most importantly, it is by how we access fatty acid oxidation. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper. True mountain endurance is not primarily a function of cardiovascular capacity or VO2 max. It is a function of metabolic efficiency. Specifically, it is the body's ability to optimize fatty acid oxidation to spare limited glycogen reserves and minimize lactate accumulation. So here's the deal. We basically have 2 fuel sources or 2 engines in our body. We have carbohydrates and we have fat. Carbohydrate metabolism is fast. It can provide quick energy in short bursts for up to 90 to 120 minutes. However, because it's fast, it also produces a lot of lactate. And basically, once we reach a critical limit of lactate, our muscles no longer have the ability to fire. Everybody's felt that burning sensation. Well, that is a function of accessing carbohydrates for energy. Fat metabolism, otherwise known as fatty acid oxidation, on the other hand, is slow, but basically limitless. So essentially for a mountain hunter, if you can train your body to access fatty acid oxidation, you essentially have a bottomless tank of energy. In addition to that, you are not creating excess lactate, so you don't get your muscles shut down from that metabolic process either. Now, we are going to get into how to train your body to prioritize fat over carbohydrates. And that is essentially, if you wanted to sum this whole video up into one takeaway, it is, if you can train your body to focus on using fat instead of carbohydrates as a fuel source, your muscular endurance will go through the roof, and the capacity that you have in the mountains will be basically limitless. Now, the reason I get so frustrated at all of these other programs that are prioritizing more Metcon based workouts like High Rocks and CrossFit, and I could name 15 different mountain hunter based programs that are charging you a monthly subscription fee to write you these Metcon based workouts that are specifically created to prioritize carbohydrates as an energy source. And when you do too much of this, you actually create something called Aerobic Deficiency Syndrome. An athlete with Aerobic Deficiency Syndrome might actually have a really high VO2 max, and they might look shredded. But the moment they step onto a mountain and try and do long distance hikes with heavy packs on their back, they bonk. And I think I get these emails every year of guys who thought they did everything right, and then they went into the mountains, and the performance that they expected to get in the mountains did not match what they were getting at home in the gym. And that's because the training that they were doing at home in the gym was not optimally programmed to create the end result they needed. Principle number 2. Zone 2 is the foundation. 80% of your training should be at a conversational pace. Zone 1 to 2. This builds the mitochondrial density required for long days and fast recovery. If you can't breathe through your nose or hold a conversation, you're going too hard. Training exhaustion instead of capacity is the biggest mistake hunters make. Again, I see this all the time. People going to the gym and absolutely murdering themselves, thinking the harder that I train, the more fit I will become. And the fact of the matter is, the exact opposite is occurring, because you are forcing your body to utilize carbohydrates, not access fatty acid oxidation. And when you get out into the backcountry with a heavy pack, you're done. Real simple 80-20 rule here. 80% of your training should be at zone 1 to zone 2, and 20% of your training should be at high intensity. Now, a landmark study showed that 6 months of dedicated endurance training resulted in a massive 41% increase in the surface density of mitochondria in the muscle. This only happens efficiently at conversational paces. So the takeaway here, if you are panting or you cannot hold a conversation while you are training, you are working too hard. This is going to be incredibly difficult for you guys to drill into your skulls, because everyone has always told you the harder you work, the more fit you will get. I guarantee if you train like this for the next 6 months, you will go into the mountains this fall more fit than you have ever been in your life. But I need you to err on the side of caution. I could give you all kinds of crazy formulas and heart rate monitors to tell you exactly when you're in zone 1, zone 2, or zone 3. Again, you should just be able to breathe through your nose or hold a conversation. If you can't, you're working too hard. And if you're gonna err on the side of caution. If you think the heart rate's getting a little bit too elevated, slow it down. Principle number 3, specificity is king. Identify the exact demands of your hunt and work backward. If you'll carry a 60-pound pack of 30% grades, your training must eventually mimic this. General gym fitness and CrossFit do not translate directly to mountain endurance. They train the wrong energy systems. So there is a concept called the SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demands. It's one of the basic fundamental tenets of kinesiology. And it basically states that your body will adapt exactly and specifically to the stresses you put on it. This is why I lose my mind when I see these guys doing like kettlebell swings and clean and presses, and it's like, have you ever done a kettlebell swing or a clean and press on a mountain? No. then you don't need to do it to get fit to go be a backcountry hunter. Go train the thing that you're gonna do. So there was a 2024 study that compared CrossFit athletes to mountain endurance athletes. And while the CrossFitters had a higher aerobic capacity or VO2 max and could leg press more weight, that did not translate into mountain endurance. So again, train what you're gonna do. If you're gonna wear a pack and hike in the mountains, your training should mimic wearing a pack and hiking in the mountains. Principle number 4, muscular endurance is the secret weapon. Muscular endurance, or ME, is the ability of a muscle to exert high force for many repetitions. For hunters, this means weighted pack carries on steep terrain. ME bridges the gap between basic aerobic fitness and the specific demands of a long pack out with an animal on your back. So there are multiple studies that have identified something called the interference effect. And this is basically, historically, people have just combined really intense, muscular lifting workouts with really intense aerobic workouts, thinking that by training the two opposite ends of the spectrum, they would develop capacity in the middle. The exact opposite has actually been proven out in these studies, where by training the two opposite ends of the spectrum, the results are actually interfering with each other, and the heavy lifting prohibits you from developing good aerobic capacity, and all the focus on the aerobic capacity prohibits you from the hypertrophy that you would typically get from all the lifting. So again, rucking is king here. It introduces local muscular fatigue into the legs without completely frying your nervous system. And that allows you to train harder and recover faster. Principle number 5, continuity and gradualness. Consistency over months beats sporadic hero workouts. Build volume gradually, no more than 10 to 15% per week. If you cannot repeat yesterday's Zone 2 workout today, you did too much. Overtraining and aerobic deficiency syndrome are medical conditions that ruin entire seasons. The takeaway here is that you cannot cram for a mountain hunt. You need to train long and slow, and you need to start that training significantly before the beginning of the hunt. Trying to just jam pack a bunch of super intense exercise into the last 4 to 6 weeks before you leave on a hunt is going to leave you overtrained and in worse shape than if you've done no training at all. Principle number 6, periodize your training year. Build an aerobic base, transition to a muscular endurance phase, then a specificity phase. Taper for 10 to 14 days before the trailhead. You cannot gain fitness in the final 2 weeks. You can only shed accumulated fatigue. So we are going to get into this when I lay out the specific example program, but each period of a training program should have a specific priority, and they should be integrated so that the one feeds into the next, so that the benefits you're taking from one period will transition into the other period. And then when we get to the next year, or the next phase of the training program, and you go back into those initial periods, you should be able to execute an increased capacity or increased volume or increased intensity compared to the first time you did a period with a similar goal. Principle number 7, separate aerobic and anaerobic work. High intensity intervals have a place, but they are the icing, not the cake. Too much high intensity work actively detrains your aerobic base. Apply intensity sparingly, only after a massive aerobic foundation is built. Hill sprints, 10 seconds, max effort are the exception. So I want to take a quick moment and talk about that. Aerobic means with oxygen, anaerobic means without oxygen. So when you do things that are long and slow and you can breathe quite well while you do them, that refers to aerobic work. When you do really intense short bursts of activity that leave you panting and out of breath, that tends to be anaerobic work. So there's a couple really important points I want to drive home here. Number 1, the polarized model. So a lot of recent studies have shown that keeping rest days truly easy and training days truly hard has produced a much improved benefit over the long run than every day kind of training moderately hard. And that feeds into another concept I want to drive home called the gray zone. When you start getting up into zone 3, which we could classify as like moderately hard, you actually start actively detraining zone 2 or your aerobic capacity. Again, one of my frustrations with these Metcon based workouts, like they are actively working to give you worse endurance. Like you'd be better off not working out at all than doing these horribly designed workouts from these, apparent professionals. And again, the reason for that is as soon as we get up into zone 3, we start shifting from aerobic to anaerobic, and we don't have the ability to deliver enough oxygen to facilitate fatty acid oxidation, kicks us back over into utilizing carbohydrates as our primary fuel source. And we're just sending more messages and more signals to our body that I want you to rely on carbohydrates. So then as soon as you hit that 90 to 120 minute marks and you run out of glycogen, you run out of aerobic capacity, you run out of energy, and then your body doesn't know how to flip over and access the fat stores that it has and utilize fatty acid oxidation as the primary fuel source. Principle number 8, respect global fatigue cost. Life stress, poor sleep, and hard workouts all draw from the same recovery pool. Muscular endurance workouts, steep weighted carries, induce local muscular fatigue without massive central nervous system stress, allowing you to train harder and more frequently. Anybody who has ever done a hard leg day knows exactly what I'm trying to get at with this statement. You can go in, you can train arms, you can train back is kind of borderline, you can train chest, you can go hard. And you wake up the next day and you feel fine. When you go to the gym and you do like heavy back squats paired with heavy leg press, quad extensions, ham curls, and then weighted lunges, that is such a massive drain on your central nervous system that not only are you dealing with the local muscular fatigue, you are dealing with the fatigue of your entire CNS system. So a lot of program design really hinges around this ability. How do I maximize the amount of work that I do without exhausting my central nervous system? Because once that's done, it doesn't matter if the local muscles are still not fatigued. Your body lacks the ability to do any more work. Principle number 9. Avoid the gym bro trap. Training for maximum strength causes muscle hypertrophy, thickening of fast twitch fibers. Extra muscle mass requires more oxygen to survive, which is a negative adaptation for an endurance athlete carrying body weight against gravity. Bigger legs are not better for the mountains. Now, I am probably the last guy on earth who should give this piece of advice. I'm walking around at 240 pounds right now, on the jacked end of the spectrum. And here's the deal. I am honest with myself. That is not the most efficient use of my time. I'm just coming out of my off season. I like lifting weights. I enjoyed myself over the Christmas holidays in January, got to train and lift. Now that hunting season is around the corner, I will put down the weights. I will focus on the cardio and the rucking. I will trim back down. So listen, if you want to go in and lift, every dude wants to look good with their shirt off. Go in and lift. Have fun. But just be honest with yourself. I'm doing this for my ego. I'm not doing it to be better in the mountains. And just watch yourself. Don't let it get so out of hand that it actively detracts from your performance in the backcountry. I've talked about this lots. I competed in 2 bodybuilding competitions while being an active backcountry hunter. And those were some of the worst years in the field I have ever had. I was way too big. I had way too much muscle with way too much oxygen demand. It was brutal. I will never repeat that again. So again, if you want to go in and lift a little bit, go ahead. It's fun, but just be honest with yourself about why you're doing it and watch yourself so it doesn't get out of hand. The last principle, number 10, train to hunt. Don't hunt to train. The goal is to arrive at the trailhead fresh, durable, and capable. It is far better to be 5% undertrained than 1% overtrained. Your fitness is a vehicle for the hunt, not the destination. Protect your training investment by not going too hard, too late. I talk with these dudes about this all the time. I got a sheep hunt in 2 months. What am I supposed to do? I always say, I would rather you show up 5 to 10 pounds overweight and fresh, in a good attitude and well fed, than crash dieted 5 to 10 pounds underweight and weak and fatigued from busting your ass for the last 6 weeks. So there are definitely, everybody gets behind the 8 ball every now and then. So there are definitely things we can do last minute to kind of squeeze and optimize where possible. But as a general rule, I do not train 1 to 2 weeks before I leave on a hunt. And I really like when I have long drives to hunt. I eat lots of food. I sit in the truck while driving. I get very well rested. So again, don't erase the benefits or the gains of 6 months worth of training in the last 2 weeks by falling into that typical masculine trap of thinking more is better. The last 2 weeks before your hunt should be about mindset and family. Spend some time with your kids. Spend some time with your wife. Make sure the finances and the books are in order. Go back over your gear systems. Go back over your mapping systems. Get right in your head. Get right with your loved ones. Don't worry about your training. You cannot get any more fit in the last 2 weeks. So enter the hunt with the right mindset instead of being completely overtrained. Before we dive into the sample workout problem, I wanted to share a study that kind of illustrates a lot of the principles that we've just been talking about. So the Mountain Tactical Institute of Research did this study on the relationship between muscular endurance, cardiovascular capacity, and marksmanship. And I'm just going to go over some of the results. There was a 24.1% accuracy drop. So moderate physical stress, 70 to 80% of max heart rate, causes a statistically significant drop in shooting accuracy. Going anaerobic during a stalk directly impairs your ability to execute the shot. So there is a fine motor skill threshold. Heart rates above 115 beats per minute begin to degrade fine motor skills like trigger control. Above 145, complex motor skills fail. Above 175, visual tracking measurably declines. It's a biathlon model. Elite biathletes ski at approximately 90% of max heart rate, yet their massive aerobic capacity allows heart rate to plummet within seconds before firing. Aerobic fitness enables rapid recovery from exertion to the shot. The takeaway for us, a large aerobic base is the only training adaptation that allows your heart rate to recover quickly after a brutal stalk, keeping you below the threshold that destroys accuracy when it counts most. I'm not telling you guys to train like this so you can feel better about yourself or that you can hike in further. There are direct implications to your efficacy as a hunter. The greater your aerobic base, the better shot you will be. And it's been proven time and time again. So there are so many good reasons to adapt this style of training. Okay, I do want to mention right now, if you go to the link in the description, you can download this entire PDF I built. It has all 10 core principles, a few little extra tidbits of the information, and then it has this entire workout program on the back. I want to say another note about the workout program. Now, before I dive into this training program, there are 2 principles that I want you to drill into your skull. Number 1, do not overcomplicate this. If at any point this gets too complicated, I just want you to do zone 2, 3 to 5 days a week. That's it. Keep it simple, stupid. Number 2, training harder will not produce better results. If anything, training lighter and easier will produce better results in the long run. This is a 16-week program. This could very easily be a 6-month program, an 8-month program. Just make each period of the program appropriately longer. Monday is a rest day. Also, you can switch these days around. Like if you're a guy who likes to train Monday, then switch Monday and Tuesday. Like it does not matter the minutia of how this gets done. Just make sure you get approximately this much effort and rest done per week for this first phase. So Monday is a rest day. Or you can do some active recovery, which might be foam rolling or a little bit of stretching. I'd rather just see you do nothing at all. Go get a massage if you want. Tuesday is going to be an aerobic day. We're going to do 45 to 60 minutes of zone 1 to zone 2 with no weight on our back whatsoever. So again, zone 1 to 2, easy to nose breathe, easy to hold a conversation. Wednesday, general strength day. 45 minutes, do some core stability, single leg exercises, hip hinges, lightweight, high reps. Just go in, do a whole body workout. And if it's going to be leg stuff, stay away from heavy squats. I'd rather you see you do like walking lunges with a couple of dumbbells in your hand or pistol squats, something that would mimic the type of leg activity you're going to see on a hunt. Thursday, we are going to do another aerobic day, 45 to 60 minutes in zone 1 to 2. And I want you to include 4 to 6 10-second sprints. After those sprints, full recovery. Slow it right down to a walk. Chill right out. Friday, rest and mobility. Saturday, we are going to do our long aerobic day. 90 to 120 minutes of zone 1 to 2, trail run, unweighted hike. This is our longest aerobic day of the week. And then Sunday, we're going to do some easy recovery. 30 to 45 minutes is zone 1. Very easy. And if you feel burnt out at all from the amount of work that you've done this week, I want you to skip Sunday and take an extra rest day. Now, let's take a moment and talk about how to execute these cardiovascular or aerobic days, because not everyone has mountains in their backyard. So you will see down at the bottom, I've put a little extra box, says no mountains, no problem. And I give some statistics on the Stairmaster, incline treadmill, VersaClimber, rowing machine, and the bike and elliptical. Which ones I think are best, which ones I think are worst. Here's the cliff notes. Stairmaster, by far, in my opinion, is the best machine if all you have access to is a machine for staying in zone 2. It's super easy to get into zone 2, and then you can just lock it in. And because you're literally like walking up a hill, I find the muscular kind of fatigue that it induces on the legs is optimal for a backcountry hunter. And then basically we go down from there. Incline treadmill would be number 2. VersaClimber would be number 3. Rowing machine would be a pretty distant 4. And the bike or elliptical, in my opinion, should not be used at all. I think they're kind of worthless as a machine in order to intentionally adjust your heart rate. And there's a variety of reasons why. You can dive more into the PDF. But there's my thoughts on which machines would be best if you don't have access to trails. Okay, so we've done our first 4-week phase. We did the program I just talked about. We did it 4 weeks in a row. Now we're at week 12. So now we are going to introduce weighted carries. And I would start light and add more weight as you go. First week, 25 pounds. Second week, 35 pounds. Fourth week, 45 pounds. I only train with 45 pounds in all of my training until I get towards the end and I do one of the hero workouts that I'm going to dive into later. Then I will carry more. But I'm 47 years old. I do not need to walk around while training with 60, 70, 80 pounds on my back. I just find the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Monday is going to be a rest day. Tuesday is going to be an unweighted aerobic workout. So just your body, 60 minutes, zone 1 to 2. Wednesday, we're going to work in our first ruck. So steep uphill ruck, 20 to 30 pound pack. Again, zone 1 to 2, 45 to 60 minutes. Thursday, unweighted aerobic run, hike, cardio, 45 minutes, zone 1 to 2 with some hill sprints. Friday, rest and recovery. Saturday, we are going to do our long ruck, 120 to 150 minute, zone 1 to 2, light pack, 20 to 30 pounds, on trails, Stairmaster, or treadmill at an incline. Sunday, again, easy recovery day, 45 minutes, no weight, zone 1, and if you're tired, take the day off. Okay, now we get into phase 3. This is specificity and peak. This is going to be essentially, if we're 2 months out from our hunt now, This is gonna lead us from week 8 all the way up to week 2, and then we're gonna take the last 2 weeks off training, or at least any type of intense training, before we head out on our hunt. So again, the goal here is to mimic the exact demands of the hunt. We're gonna increase the weight of our packs. We're gonna increase the intensity of some of our workouts. Monday, active recovery. Tuesday, unweighted, 60 to 75 minutes, zone 1 to 2. Wednesday, heavy muscular endurance ruck. So we're gonna get up to 40 to 50 pounds, 60 to 75 minutes. And if we're on the Stairmaster, we wanna start cranking up that intensity of the Stairmaster a little bit. Thursday, 45 to 60 minutes, unweighted hike with 4 to 6 10-second hill sprints. Friday, active recovery. Saturday, this is one of those hero workouts that I was talking about. So we're gonna do a 3 to 4 hour hike. Pack should be 45 pounds, steep terrain. A really phenomenal thing here, bring your optics and your rifle. If you live anywhere close to mountains, this is the perfect opportunity. Go shoot some rocks at 400 or 500 yards. Go practice rucking really steeply uphill with a 45-pound pack, getting to the top, and then trying to hold your binoculars. You will instantly become convinced of why I love image stabilizing binoculars so much. And again, real steep hike, heavy pack, get to the top, try and take a couple shots. Be honest with yourself about how your accuracy has declined due to being out of breath, having shaking legs, and just generally not being as cognitively sharp as you would be if you hadn't just hiked up a big hill with a heavy pack. And then for the last 2 weeks, listen, if you want to go on some dog walks, if you want to do some light hikes, that's fine. But I don't want you doing anything that's going to introduce muscular fatigue. At this point, it's all about rest and recovery and entering into the hunt in the optimal headspace. All right, folks. There's my thoughts on how you should be training for backcountry hunts. I am a big fan of dialogue and learning what we can from each other. So if you've tried training like this and you have some feedback, maybe some things that worked, some things that didn't, some highlights that you could share with other people that you think would help them, please drop them in the comments section below. I will guarantee you this. If you train like this for the next 6 months and you've been doing any type of standard, traditional, Metcon-based, intensity-based training before this, this will fundamentally change your endurance in the backcountry. I guarantee it. I hope you guys have found this helpful. Full PDF is downloadable at the link in the description below. If you guys could engage with this content in any way, shape, or form, like, comment, share, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you for tuning in.